I wrote this paper because I think we often neglect in the West the pro-Russian civil society and the fact that in some of these countries there are divisions in the societies about the future orientation versus Eurasian Union or European Union, and Russia started actively playing on these differences, and it's important for the West, who is trying to promote and support democratic development in the region, to understand these dynamics and to understand that there is a competition and that Russia is in fact doing democracy deterrence. It tries to ensure that its model of sovereign democracy, or sometimes they call illiberal democracy, is competing with the liberal social democratic tradition of European Union. Russia started observing what they believed the United States was doing with toppling unfriendly regimes. And this dates back to Slobodan Milosevic toppling by the popular protest in Serbia, and then in particularly with color revolutions that happened in the post-Soviet space in Georgia, in Kyrgyzstan, in Ukraine in 2004. So since then, Russia was not just observing what they believed the United States was doing. They wanted to design their own set of tools that would provide them similar playing field in the neighborhood through the non-state actors. And they packaged it in the framework of Russian world as an ideology and soft power as a policy. The tradition of using a non-military influence on the minds of the people clearly has a Soviet legacy, and there were these Soviet friendship societies and youth camps where the Soviet Union would promote its ideology very much in the Warsaw Pact countries. So they have part of this thinking, but it was complemented greatly with the kind of postmodern tools of social media, of very active grassroots engagement with universities, with also using traditional media that is very much state-controlled to amplify these and magnify some of these trends. So, for example, if you would have a small protest in Crimea against the NATO training jointly with the Ukrainians, they would present it in Russian media as a huge anti-NATO, anti-American event, whereas it could be just a group of 25 young people who came out on the streets with a few posters. I think our first step is to acknowledge that there is this trend, because it's important. Very often, again, as I said, we pretend this does not exist, or we believe it's negligible. But in fact, we do see the way events shape in Ukraine, that these actors are playing instrumental role very often in this hybrid war. Whereas the young paramilitary troops and Cossacks associations, which are formally registered as NGOs, are being on the front lines. The idea is basically to increase the transparency and awareness about this fact, and also for Western democracy supporters and groups such as even European Union, that is now trying to engage more with civil society, is to acknowledge of this, that there is a risk, and to make sure that they know how to confront some of this disinformation that is coming from the pro-Russian groups, and to make sure that communication strategy of European Union and pro-democracy, pro-liberal groups acknowledges some of these narratives and in a way either debunks some of these myths or makes sure that it provides a reliable alternative narrative to what European Union, Eastern Partnership, democracy really means, because these ideas are increasingly being discredited in the region.